Welcome everyone. Last time I did this, I accidentally stopped the recording a couple times. So if that happens, my apologies in advance, but we will put it back together, and my husband, who's really good at technology, will edit the video so it's all one thing. So I have a backup plan, in-house tech support. Welcome everyone. My name is Meg, and I am the new Spenard Community Council president. And I will start the meeting with a little bit of a Zoom introduction, which is funny since it's coming from me, and I previously said I'm not great at Zoom, but I do have a couple of things I've learned from Lindsay. So everyone here should have the ability to chat, but not to everyone in the group. You can send messages to the host. So if you have questions you want to ask or things that we can help with, definitely reach out. Matt and Margaret, myself and Sarah are all monitoring the chat. It would be really helpful if you guys signed in. That sign-in form should be in the chat. That keeps a track record of our meeting. Additionally, if you are able to rename yourself, so include your first and last name, that's really nice. For example, I'm going to do that right now because I know I didn't include my last name. And the way that you do that is you should be able to click the 3 dots in the upper right-hand corner that's on your picture and hit rename to include your first and last name. And that's because, you know, we're in an online space and we're trusting that folks are here in best intentions, but it is nice to be able to identify yourself. We'll ask for folks to mute themselves when they're not actively talking to reduce background noise. If you do unmute and there is background noise, we'll probably, the hosts will work to mute you, and no offense intended there. It's just to make sure our meeting runs smoothly and that there isn't any folks sharing things that they do not want to share. I think those are the main tips. I am going to share my screen so that we can go over the agenda. These agendas are sent out in advance of our meetings. We always try to get them sent out a week before, but I'm going to do a quick rundown of what we're going to be expecting. We're starting the welcome. Again, reminder to put your first and last names. One quick adjustment to the agenda is that we are not going to be doing door prize drawings. Sorry, I know that must be let down for some folks, but just because we're starting the new year in April and sometimes that gets kind of messy with accounting, but we'll be back with a vengeance next month. So that's the one adjustment that we have to the agenda. And then Julie, our wonderful new treasurer, will explain that. That being said, I will introduce the executive board that we have here. We have joining us in the vice president's role is Matt Duncan. Thank you. Yes, do a little wave. And then we also have new person stepping up to fill my old position as secretary, Sarah Prescott. Julie Leonard as our treasurer. And we have auditors of Irene Person Gamble, Peggy Oth, and Margaret. Thank you. Thank you for your waves. So with that being said, I will ask if there is someone who is, oh gosh, the wording of these ones, entertain a motion to for our consent agenda. So approving our minutes from last week and approving current agenda.
Move to approve. This is Peggy.
Thank you, Peggy. Any seconds out there? Matt, nice. Thank you. All right. So with that being said, we're going to move on to our first. Oh, actually, I forgot to share our website too, where you can find, I'm going to do that really quickly, where you can find the resolutions. We have one resolution we're considering tonight, and that is posted on the website here. We're not able, when we send out emails to everyone, to put attachments like from the FCC. So that's why we try really hard to link our resolutions in the agenda, and the link will just go to this main page that has all of the agenda items there. So I know it's hard to look at a resolution like in the moment, but if you're on a computer or using your phone, you can go to our Spenard Community Council website and review that before we get to that point. Alrighty, so moving into our first agenda item, we are excited to have Senator Mia Costello here for our meeting. And I was very happy because her office reached out and volunteered to be in the meeting tonight. So I didn't have to reach out to folks to figure out who was going to be here for my first meeting. So very happy to have that volunteer. And Senator Costello, you have about 5 minutes for an update.
Oh, great. Well, thank you so much. I didn't realize I was going to be first, but it's really a pleasure to be joining you today in your meeting. And Meg, I want to congratulate you for being the president of the Community Council. Stepping up to take that role is really, it's laudable. And I'm sure that everybody appreciates the time and effort that you're going to be putting into your presidency. And also want to thank the former board for stepping up too. So I'm in Juneau and very busy chairing the Labor and Commerce Committee. Today we heard presentations from many of the trades and the training programs that they offer for young people when they graduate from high school, pipe fitters and engineers and construction workers, and the training programs that they have. There's quite a few training opportunities for our young people. And one of the things that all of the presenters mentioned was that there are going to be more jobs available than people in Alaska to fill them. And one of the things that was brought up was that as opposed to like an Alaska hire in our bills, we can do an apprenticeship requirement, because that way, when there are jobs and the unions are required to have the apprenticeships, that means that Alaskans are going to be learning the skills that are needed, and they're going to be staying in our communities rather than leaving. So that was kind of how they dovetailed with the infrastructure funding that's coming from the federal government. We still haven't received the details, specifics on that. I do know that a lot of the money is going to be going to individual or to entities as pass-through grants to the communities. I'm very excited about the opportunities for broadband and sewer and water projects, roads and bridges and transportation infrastructure that's coming to Alaska. I also wanted to mention that we are working across party lines on how to resolve the dividend issue. And today, the House majority actually announced that they're going to be supporting a $1,300 energy dividend in addition to the permanent fund dividend, because of how well our permanent fund has been doing in the last year. We also are, of course, watching what's going on in Ukraine. And I posted a Facebook message about Ukraine and just how devastating it is that a democratic country that is, not just essentially their residents are going about their daily lives and they were invaded by Russia. We're watching that every day. The House Representatives actually passed a Sense of the House today, which is a statement that in support of Ukraine, and that passed essentially with all people voting yes, except for one individual. So I applaud the House for doing that. We have started our budget subcommittees, and I had my first budget subcommittee last night with the courts. Each of the agencies in state government will be having their budgets reviewed. And interestingly enough, the courts have moved really to a lot of Zoom cases. So they do most of their work now on Zoom, and their cases are actually shared on YouTube. So you can watch those cases, and they're saving a lot of money doing that, but they're also planning to reopen the courts on Fridays. That was something that they did as a cost-saving measure, and they're finding that with the backlog of cases during COVID, that they really need to expand the number of days that they're open. So they're requesting that. And, I think with that, I just wanted to say that the best way to reach me is through email or through calling my office. And the Anchorage number is 269-0117. And that number is forwarded down here to Juneau. And I'll call you back, or if you want to send me an email, It's sen.mia.costello@akleg.gov. And I really appreciate hearing from everybody. We're really busy down here right now. I also, besides chairing Labor and Commerce, I sit on the Health and Social Services Committee and also the State Affairs Committee. And so those are 3 pretty busy committees right now, but we're hoping, I mean, I'm thinking that we're going to be finishing at least within the 120 days that we normally finish at, but we're moving right along. And you know, I'm happy to take questions from anybody on any issue. So with that, thank you very much, Meg. And again, congratulations on your heading up the community council.
Thank you, Senator Costello. I think we have time for about one question. I saw Tani's hand go up first. So Tani, take it away.
Hi, yeah, thanks, Mia. So it's kind of a 2-part. One, I think you weren't here last month when I wanted to extend a thanks to you and the other legislators for whatever work you guys have been doing regarding snow plowing. I've noticed a significant difference in the last 2 months, with the exception of recently, because I think it's just chaos everywhere. And I just wanted to, encourage you in your work with the budget and moving forward to continue to advocate for plowing of the sidewalks in especially along these major thoroughfares where pedestrians are walking. I know with the ice buildup, I've seen again these massive berms that people are just walking in the streets again, and it's just so hazardous. So hope that you can, I don't know if it's directly in your subcommittees, but looking at the Department of Transportation and their budget, just continuing to advocate for that. Even though we're coming upon the spring, hopefully soon. So that's it.
Well, thank you, Tani. I know that these are the issues that affect us the most, really, is the things that we deal with day to day. And I know the Anchorage School District canceled school recently just because of the hazardous roads. So I will definitely be in touch with the mayor's office too about that, and make sure that the funding for any maintenance that DOT does is in the budget, because I agree that it's a safety issue, and right now this time of year is really particularly hazardous. So thank you for that comment.
Excellent. Thank you, Mia, for being here tonight. We appreciate you. And now we're going to move into our next agenda items, which is our brief reports, starting with our assembly persons, Cameron Perez-Verdia and Austin Quinn Davidson. I'm not sure which one of you two wanted to go first, and if you wanted to split your time, but you guys have 10 minutes total or 5 minutes each.
We can do either. Cameron, it looks like you're on the move.
Yeah, I just got back from my daughter's ski race. So Austin, go ahead and start, and then I'll add to it. What do you have?
Yeah. Hi, everyone, and thanks to Meg and everyone else on the board for serving. I wanted to thank Senator Costello too. I went down to Juneau a couple weeks ago with Pete Peterson and Suzanne LaFrance, and we were able to meet with a few legislators about the port, which is the municipality's top capital priority, something we've been working on for years, those of us who have been on assembly for a while, building a plan to get us where we are. And we actually just got really good news that in judgment, we are looking at, if depending on the appeal, receiving 85 or 65 million, I'm forgetting the number. Cameron saying 65, pretty big chunk. The port is a big project, so there's more to do. And Bryce might have more info too, but there's more work to do and more funding to collect to be able to really get this operational. About 90% of folks' goods that come through Alaska come through the port. So people who, whether they're in Anchorage or whether they're in rural Alaska, are impacted by really the feasibility of our port and its ability to get things out. So anyway, thanks to Senator Costello, we were able to meet with her and have been coordinating with the mayor's office to hopefully, she offered to hold a hearing in her Labor and Commerce Committee to educate some of the legislature about where we are currently with the port. So just want to say thanks for that. A couple of things I think worth mentioning. I put them, can you all see the chat? I put links in the chat to the stuff that I was going to talk about. And Cameron might want to talk about some of this too, but I thought it'd be a good reference for you guys to check out later. So one is that we've been moving through the reapportionment process. Reapportionment is basically what we call our municipal redistricting process. We started in November, we accepted a bunch of maps from the public, had our contractors that we hired draw up a bunch of maps, held town halls, work sessions, etc. We've now, just last night, whittled it down to one map, which is called Map 11 version 2. You can tell how many maps we've been looking at. And you can find that on the website, as well as a timeline of sort of what's next. Now we'll be entertaining amendments from assembly members to really narrow down any details in those maps that people want to change. So one thing I know that Spenard's been concerned about, I think Cameron reported last month, was just that Spenard, it looks like, is going to be potentially split if there isn't an amendment to change that between Midtown and West Anchorage. There are a lot of community councils that are that way. Cameron and I go to North Star Community Council, which is like along Fireweed, Valley of the Moon area. And there are 4 assembly members that regularly attend that meeting. So while it might seem difficult to be split, I actually think in some ways there are some benefits, because you have a lot of assembly members who are really aware of the issues in your district. So anyway, more information about reapportionment at the link in the chat. I wanted to remind everyone that we have an election coming up, as I'm sure you know, since if you're here, you're all very engaged citizens, or residents rather. And on Sunday, I think, is the last day to register to vote if you haven't done so. And I linked to a page that Cameron got this for us. Thank you, Cameron, and sent it around to community council presidents. But there's a list of all of the bonds that are going to be on the ballot and what's going to be on them. So if you want to look at those in advance. And also there's a new feature this year with muni elections, which is a ballot tracking mechanism. So you can sign up. I did it about a month ago. I'm trying to remember. I think you put in your phone number and it sends you texts when your ballot's received, when your ballot's scanned, so that you can sort of track the process, which is new and I think kind of fun. So there's a link to the elections page here in the chat that then you can go from there. Along the top, there's a thing that says ballot tracker. And then in terms of the bonds, we've talked about that a bit, but really in January, we evaluated the assembly, the mayor's package that he wanted to put on the bond, or on the April ballot. We then added some things I'm trying to think, for Spenard, Lois and 32nd, which is technically in Turnagain, but also kind of goes into Spenard Community Council boundary. That was something that Cameron and I worked to get added to the bond, the upgrades around Aquarians Elementary School, and then pedestrian and design for the road, but pedestrian features as well on 32nd and 33rd that kind of spills out where the AWU facility is, and then beyond there. So we added those in addition to the Fish Creek study, which I know has been a top priority of the Spenard Community Council. So I think that's it, and I'll let Cameron go ahead and then we can take questions if there are any.
Thanks, Austin. You hit most of all the points that I was hoping to hit too. So that's great. We're of like mind. I would just say two things. One is that I really do want to encourage people to engage in the reapportionment process. And so if you have thoughts, if you have concerns, please reach out to Austin and myself about that. Also, I wanted to just give an update on the body camera policy that we've been working on. As you know, for quite some time, it was passed that the voters approved funding to bring body cameras to the Anchorage Police Department, and we've been working on for quite some time a policy to ensure that really those body cameras are used in a way that is responsible. There's been a lot of discussion about it. The comment period now has been opened until March 21st. So if you have thoughts about them, now there's a couple of opportunities to go on to the APD website and share your thoughts about that. And I'll send out those links following the meeting. But I really want to make sure that people have an opportunity to voice that. The hope is that we can get through the policy process and move on to the process of ordering the cameras, getting people trained, going through the deliberation that they're going to do with the union, and get them out on the street. Because we really do believe that these are going to create greater transparency and accountability, but they're also going to make sure that officers are safe and the public is safe. And so I just want to make sure that folks know that that's still moving forward. And as always, please feel free to reach out to Austin and myself if you have concerns or thoughts. We're here to answer your questions. Thanks.
Thank you, Cameron. So it looks like we have about 3 minutes left for this section. So a couple minutes for questions. I saw Dave and Terry's hand raised, and then I saw Jed's after, and then Irma's. So we'll go in that order.
Yes, I'm glad that you both mentioned something about the reapportionment. I was at the meeting last night and I had numerous questions, and I emailed the assembly and got one reply from Mr. Constant, which was a very short, non-informative response, and none of the other assembly members, including yourselves, replied to that email. So I'm really glad you say to reach out to you, because I have numerous times and haven't gotten a response. And my understanding is you guys extended the timeline to be able to look at different maps. Yet last night you narrowed it down to one. And Mr. Constant's reply was that we didn't because I said, well, you voted on one map and moved it forward. And he goes, no, we didn't approve that map. We just didn't approve the other three, and we only moved one map forward. So, and my question, there was a multitude. It was probably a whole page or a page and a half email I had sent, and he only replied to that one part of it. But my question is why extend public input when you narrowed it down to one map? I have no more choices anymore. And I'm on 4 community councils, and numerous ones asked for more time so they could talk about which map. That's null and void now. You guys have already picked the one map. So that's very frustrating for you guys to do that. And then also it's
To be mindful that we only have a couple minutes for questions. Do you feel like you got your question across, sir?
Well, one more part of that is you say it's public testimony, but yet I've already testified, but now you're going to have it down to one map and you're going to make changes to it, but I'm not allowed to readdress or testify against that the way I understand, unless I'm wrong, but that's it. Thank you.
Well, let me reply real quick, and then I'll let Austin share some thoughts. But I would just say that that any concerns or changes that you're interested in, those are still we want to hear them, because I think that the goal at this point is to narrow it down to one map. But there's going to be quite a bit of conversation about modifying that and making amendments to that. So if there are specific areas that you're concerned about, there is a potential of making changes to the existing map. Our goal was, so that we're not dealing with multiple maps, to get it to one map and then to make changes to that map. And so what I would encourage you to do, and I'll have to go back and look, because I'm not remembering seeing your email. So I'll go back and look at it, and I'll make sure to reply to it. But the opportunity at this point is to go to one map, but then to look at potential modifications to that map, and to make sure we have enough opportunity for community councils and for individuals to make sure that their voices are heard. And if there are opportunities to change that map, then that's what we would do moving forward. So from my perspective, all we've done is narrowed it to one map, but there's still opportunities to make changes to that. Austin?
Yeah, I'll just add that, we've been working on this process since November. So we solicited from the public, anybody that wanted to create maps. Obviously, a lot of us don't have those technical skills, me included, but we did get a number of maps in December. We then put them out, I think in early January. We then had a couple, or maybe it was mid-January, we had a couple of town halls. Then we got more maps. We've been talking about this in committee for months with the maps that we have. Then some, there have been a lot of changes. It can be hard to track just because it's a fast moving process, and that's how municipal government works. We meet every 2 weeks, we have work sessions, we have committees, we try to take in as much as we can. The reason that so you asked about extending the timeline, we did extend the timeline. We were supposed to decide on a final map last night, but we extended that until March 23rd, which is now when we'll vote on a final map. as assembly members, are being asked to submit any amendments that we'd like to see by March 7th. And those will then by March 14th, because the contractor has to take the shape files and get them in a good format, we'll put them up on the website so that the public can see them. Then on the 15th, we will take more public comment on any amendments that are submitted. The 18th, we'll have a work session about those amendments. And then on the 23rd, we'll have a meeting where we consider and vote on a final map. So still plenty of time to get in comments. And like Cameron, I'm usually pretty good at my email, and I didn't see yours, but sometimes we get them in groups, and we get a lot that are all for all of us. So I try to respond to all, but I definitely respond to people who say, oh, I live in this district. So I'm sorry if I missed it, but thanks for the questions.
All right, going on to Jed is who we had next question.
Yeah, thanks, Cameron, and thanks, Austin. I can definitely appreciate how complicated this process is. If you move, one piece over in one part of the map, you have to change something over in the other part, and it's everything is constantly in flux. I do want to express my concern. Austin, you mentioned that the community council area is split, and I think that that's probably some of that is going to be unavoidable, but I do have concerns that the map that was approved last night has split us actually into 3 different assembly districts. And I just don't know if I agree with you that that's going to be the most effective. I think that I'm just really concerned that might water down our representation. So I guess I don't necessarily have a question for you all. It's just more want to share the concern with the rest of the council members that we really should stay engaged in this and try to submit some comments that will be helpful to Cameron and to Austin about maybe at least getting that amended to having us just split among 2 assembly districts, because 3 is just too many. So thank you, but thank you for the work that you're doing on this.
Austin, do you want to respond to that first?
Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, no, I think I would just say that I think that I appreciate the comment, and I appreciate the concern around 3. It's Austin and I have been having many conversations about this and trying to figure out a way to balance the needs of not only our district but all of the others, and trying to make this all work. So I will say that Austin and I are actively working on amendments for the map, and we're looking at a variety of options. So your feedback and your comments really are important to us, and help us to try to figure out what to bring forward.
Did you have anything to add to that, Austin? Okay, great. All right, thank you guys both for your responses. Thanks, Jed, for your question. Going on to Irma. Welcome, Irma. Irma, if you're trying to speak, I can't hear you. Ooh, I'm sorry, I still can't. If you want to type your question in the chat, we can potentially go back to it if that sounds okay. All right. Sorry about that. I'm not a stranger to tech issues, so I feel you there, and feel free to message me if you'd like, and I can repeat the question if Cameron and Austin, if you guys can stick around for a minute while we go into our next section. Okay, excellent. All right, so our next section we have on our agenda is our Anchorage School Board report by Ms. Margot Bellamy. You'll have 5 minutes, including questions.
Okay, thank you. I'll be real quick so I can accept some questions. So since we last met, this council meets very early in the month, so a lot happens after we meet. So I'd like to kind of do a real quick highlights from February. So we voted and approved 2 negotiated agreements, one with Totem that had been in process. That's our support staff. It had been in process for about 1.5 years, and we finally, the union ratified it, and we approved that contract. We also approved a contract with our teachers. Both were approved at our February 22nd meeting. The superintendent search continues. We had a work session yesterday to review our timeline and hear from our search firm, as well as Leadership Anchorage, who initiated our local conversations within the community. So the search firm conducted the internal portion of data collection from our staff, and Leadership Anchorage did the external piece. They both did an excellent job, and they gave us a lot of data. We are using that data to create a profile for the next superintendent. And on the 13th of this month, the board will begin to narrow the pool of candidates. We had approximately 80 applications. However, only 23 of them were completed. So it is from that pool of 23 that we will select. We'll begin to narrow that pool, and those interviews will start the week of March 14th. So I will keep you posted. We will have a process, a community engagement process, when we narrow down to the last 2 candidates, 2 or 3, depending on what the board decides. Let's see. So that's pretty much the highlights from February. We met last night, and last night most of the discussion had to do with the student community work agreement. That has been going on. That discussion has been going on for approximately 8 months now. The board finally got to a point where it could pass, add some revisions to our policy, so that projects that are $1 million, at least $1 million, would go through a process to see if a community work agreement would be warranted. It is very similar to the one used by the Muni. It is new, and we will be keeping our eye on it to make sure it's doing what we anticipate it to do for our students. Our next meetings for this month will be the 15th. We of course encourage participation. You may participate through public comment or testify on an agenda item that you are interested in. Let's see, continuing, this is, of course, we do have an update. I'll put the link in the chat. We have an update on our COVID protocols. So we are back, our students are back traveling domestically, and this is our first week into that we moved to our optional or choice masking. And so as I visited schools this week, it seems like 50-50. Some staff are masked and others are not, but we are that is our plan for right now. And we will of course be assessing as we go through any other, but absent any other variants or community status concerns. That is where we are with our COVID strategies, mitigation plan. I'm trying to see what I'm missing. So for those of you who have young children or you have grandchildren and you are interested in some of our choice programs, the lottery program is open, and I can put that chart in the chat as well. I'm probably missing something that's of concern, but I will answer your questions, and happy to do so. Thank you, Meg.
Thank you. All right, so we're right at 5 minutes, so we'll have time for one question. I see. I know, I'm a harsh timer. I'm sorry. It is all good stuff, though. All right, I have some, looks like I have a hand from Miss Rosemary.
Rosemary.
And I just unmuted, I believe.
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello, Margot.
Hi, Rosemary.
What reading program does the lower grades use in the Anchorage School District?
So it's the ELA reading curriculum, and I can send you. I can put that link for you in the chat.
That would be.
It is a science based curriculum. It has been in use now. I think this is the 4th year, and And it's also, it's not just in the lower grades, but we've also taken it up to grade to middle school. So I can put that information in the chat so that you would have the exact information.
And what impact has that had on the fourth grade reading level tests that you test out every year for ranking us with the states around the union?
So
We have-
Rosemary, oh yeah.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay, so one of the things, one of our goals this year is really reading proficiency improving, and we're really focused on grades K through 3. Now, I'm not sure of the data for grade 4 would be also in our data dashboard, and I can send you that link as well. But reading is it is a goal, which we could remember. We did our goals. We were behind given the COVID, but that was a community process to identify our goals. So the goal of reading. So by 3rd grade, our kids should be gaining in proficiency. We are monitoring that goal every single month. We have a different goal that we monitor with all the data that supports it. And we will be doing, we just did a reading assessment or analysis of where our kids at, what they know and what they're able to do. And that's one of the things that we're doing differently. Not only do we have a goal, we are monitoring the goal to make sure that there's growth as well as proficiency.
Do you
All right,
have?
so to be mindful of time, and I'm going to
sorry.
kindly request questions come through the chair so that I can make sure that we're staying on track. We're going to move on to the next section.
Okay.
Thank you, Rosemary, for your good question, and thank you.
Email me,
Margot.
Rosemary.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll put my stuff in the box. Okay.
Excellent. All righty. So up next, I did invite a representative from the Anchorage Police Department to be here through the formal invite process and sent an email. I'm not seeing anyone in the participants, so it looks like they're with APD. All right, hearing and seeing none, we'll go on to Mr. John Johansson with the Anchorage Airport to provide their update, and I will try again next month to see if we can have an APD staff person join us, because I know that's often something folks like to hear, as well as the airport update. So take it away, John.
Okay, good evening. Thank you for having me. Meg, our communications coordinator, is also on the phone. We're still working with COVID. We no longer have testing available on airport. It's all been moved off airport by DHSS. But we do have vaccination clinic on airport, which is still in the same location where Grizzly Pizza used to be, to the left of the B concourse ticket counters, where Delta and Raven and so forth have the ticket counters. To the left of there is where the where the vaccination clinic is. So that's still available for folks 12 and older. We are looking for comments on our community outreach plan. Mentioned this at the last meeting. We're hoping to get any comments you may have as suggestions to how we may change that by March 18th. And there's a link on the airport update, which I think you guys have posted on your website, to find a copy of that plan if you guys are interested in commenting on it. Kind of a little update on some summer schedule, besides the normal folks coming back and increasing service for the summer for passenger air travel. We have Eurowings Discovery coming to provide service, and they are going to Frankfurt. And then we have an ultra low cost carrier, a Canadian company called Flair, and they will be providing service to Vancouver. We had hoped to have service to the Russian Far East. That was canceled, not due to the more recent events, but it was canceled earlier. So no Yakutia flying to the Far East of Russia this year. Construction, we're one of the most significant projects that will impact folks is we are reconstructing or rehabilitating, I should say, the terminal loop road that you drive around as you come into the terminal area and exit the airport. So we're doing a lot of work on that. We're going to get started on that sometime early next month with actual physical construction. And we're going to have the commercial curb, or the passenger curb, particularly on the bag claim level, is going to, those drive lanes through there are going to get reconstructed. So we're hoping to get that work done before the summer rush. And then we'll focus on the rest of the project through the summer. But there are going to be lane closures and so forth, and we'll have some postings on what's the word I'm looking for? Well, places like Facebook and etc. We will have postings there that won't be done by me. They'll be done by Meg, because I don't understand any of that. And then we're going to get out in a couple weeks, kind of a list of all the other construction projects going on around the airport. Most of them are going to be in the airfield area, but we'll get that out to the community council and post on our website in a couple weeks. And just a reminder, please use the cell phone lot. That's going to get real critical when we start work on that terminal loop road and have lanes shut down at the bag claim level. The Lakewood Seaplane Base, it's kind of a mess out there, but it still is an aerodrome, and with the weather cooling off just recently, they will probably be restarting use of that more frequently. So please stay off the lake surfaces. We're still looking to hire a whole bunch of people, mostly equipment operators and facility maintenance type folks. And our contact for the monthly update or any questions you have outside of this meeting is Megan Peters, and her email address is megan.peters@alaska.gov, and it's on the update here. That's all I have. I'll entertain any questions or take comments and concerns.
Seeing no questions coming through the chat or raised hands, thank you, John, for being here.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Before we pivot to our next section, I was able to get the question from our community member and neighbor to our assembly folks. So Cameron, the question was about clarification about the bond items, about 32nd and 33rd. And if you could speak to that, they weren't sure if that was included in what you were speaking about.
Yeah, and Austin was actually given that update, and that is one of the bonds that we put forward. And we can the document that we submitted has more of a description of exactly what that is. So we sent that forward, and I'm happy to talk more about it. So if the person asking the question wanted to reach out, it would be great to talk over the phone or through email.
Awesome. Thank you. Sorry for the mix up about who was sharing that, but thanks for staying on and readdressing that question out of order. All right. So our next item we have is a update about the Uri Park site plan. And we have Taylor Keegan from Parks and Recreation joining us. I think I saw Taylor in the chat or in the participants list. Are you with us?
Yeah. Let me get all set up here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you great. I can't see you.
Okay, hold on. Let me see here.
Oops. Taylor? All right, Taylor.
No.
Okay, yes, there you are. I was
There
like,
we go.
hopefully I didn't do something weird, because if something weird happens, it usually is me doing it, but I'm glad you're here. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. I think I'm in the browser Zoom situation, so that's probably just setting stuff. So great. Okay, well, thanks, Meg. I appreciate it.
And real quick, you have you have 10 minutes, including questions for this section.
Perfect. I will try to keep it as short as I can. My presentation's a little longer, so if I skip over sections, then folks just get in touch with me and I'm happy to answer them. So I'm going to share my screen. Okay. Well, this is fun. Okay, perfect. Can you see my presentation?
Yes, with the Yarrow.
Okay, perfect. Okay, great. So thanks for that. All right, so my name is Taylor Keegan. I'm a landscape architect with Parks and Rec, and this presentation just really aims to inform the Spenard community members about the plan. And I hope to return in April for a resolution of support from the Spenard Community Council. But I wanted to let folks know that I'm still accepting comments and feedback, and I want to hear what you think. And I'm here to tell you a little bit about the park. So it is a 1.82 acre park. It's off of Roosevelt Drive, which is in the neighborhoods that I hear is informally called the Dead Presidents, which is pretty fun. But essentially, you would access it by Taft Road off of Spenard. And it's proximate to the Alaska Railroad. Fish Creek runs right through the bottom of the parcel. It abuts the Fish Creek Trail, which connects into Tudor, kind of near SBS. And it's a little gem. It's just tucked into the community back there. So it was originally owned, and I'm actually really curious to hear what the community members, how the community members pronounce Barbara's name, but it was owned by Barbara Urey until the 1980s. And it transitioned to a public resource that was used by the Lions Club for several years until the structures on site fell into disrepair. The plan is just looking to transition the property to behave more as a community asset. And the plan is intended to be a vision for the park for the next 10 years. Like I mentioned, in 1982, we took ownership of the land from Barbara Urey. From the mid-1980s to the mid-2010s, the Lions Club operated out of the old residence. In 2017, we removed the structures on the site due to safety concerns. In 2018 and 2019, we hosted some volunteer events to limb vegetation, pick up trash, and remove some invasive species. The voters passed 2 bonds, one in 2019 and one in 2020. And from 2020 on, we've just continued to manage the property for forest health, which you'll see in some photos later on. History plays a really big role in the site, not only to the direct neighbors, but also during the process, I actually met someone who used to help Barbara with her dog sled team when he was a young guy looking for a job. So I thought that was pretty fun. The plan highlights some of the historic aerial imagery. So you can see that nothing was really going on in 1939 there. And then in the 50s, we see some development. In the 60s, it becomes heavily developed. We also have the property appraisal, which is cited in the plan. There's some old photos. Here you can see the old residence. There are 2 structures. And then there was an old greenhouse, and the Fish Creek behind your house A was actually dammed, and it used to be a pond, which was a surprise to me because if you go down there now, there's really there's no story of that. So again, that's in the appendix of the plan. Check it out if you want to see more. The inventory analysis, we looked at the site ecology, we looked at the topography. There's a significant grade change on the site that creates 2 distinct areas of the park. We also did a sort of a hydraulic and hydrologic, it's a tongue twister, study to see where we could most effectively build a crossing over the floodplain. And that was really important because the FEMA mapping along the Fish Creek isn't great, and we want to be cost effective with our infrastructure efforts. We also studied the non-motorized circulation to help better understand the community's requests, which were strong, to add a connection through the park to help connect the neighborhood to the Fish Creek Trail. It was brought to my attention during the review period for the community advisory group that we didn't cite the Spenard corridor plan, so we included an excerpt from there to highlight how Urey Park plays into that larger plan, and we're really grateful for that feedback. Site photos, the plan has a lot of site photos. Really notably, photo was taken in 2019 on the left, and the one on the right was taken in 2021. So you can see that the park, as well as many of the neighbor or properties in Spenard and across Anchorage in Alaska, were heavily hit by spruce beetle kill. So a lot of those old spruce trees unfortunately died, and we removed them. And here's just some more photos of the site. You can see here there's an upland, here is a lowland. The character is quite different. The lowland's forested, it's riparian, and the upland, as you can see in the panoramic photos, is more open, it's sunny. This is where the old house was located. The ground is not very pleasant to walk on. It's still pretty bumpy and uneven and not maintained. So another request from community members is that this gets regraded, reseeded, and is regularly mowed, and is more of a community resource for passive programming opportunities. Public outreach. So we had a fix it in summer of 2018 to remove invasive species. December 2018, I appeared at the Spenard Community Council to get some feedback from the 2017 demolition and form a community advisory group. We had another fix it in 2019. And again, I appeared at the Spenard Community Council to collect additional input because the community advisory group turned out to be a little bit small. We also had a digital survey to supplement in-person feedback that was open for 1 year. In December, the community advisory group provided comment to the draft plan, and now I'm here talking to you guys. And a summary of the trail feedback, or the feedback, includes just bullet points. Trail development was a big one. Programming, safety and visibility, forest health, other amenities like trash cans, benches, and then maintenance, like I mentioned, of that open grassy area. We broke the community's requests into a short-term and long-term plans. The short-term includes constructing a connection from Roosevelt Drive down to the Fish Creek Trail. We want to manage the sight lines and keep clear sight into the park, especially from the road. We want to maintain this open grassy area and keep it open for flexible and passive programming. And then we want to provide really standard amenities. The long-term goals, we want to maintain the natural character of the forest. There was a lot of interest in having a community garden, and not only in this plan, but also in Whisperings through other development across Anchorage. So we just wanted to leave that open-ended, and if a partner wanted to come in and help invest, that would be a whole separate effort highlighted in the plan as a community wish. And then finally, creating interpretive signage to help share educational information about the park, whether it's about the history of Yuri and what she did with the land, or how ecology works. Yeah, a lot of good opportunities. Lastly, what have I been doing for the last year? The timeline is a little bit empty since the pandemic started, and we've been looking into the costs associated with building a trail and working towards the design. So as of January 2022, the survey, the watershed analysis, civil engineering and design are estimated to cost about 70 grand. As of December, we had a 65% estimate for a bridge that has to span a long way, again, because of that study. It's just about 190 grand. And then a trail would be an additional 70 grand. So the very base development costs for phase one are estimated to be $327,000. Funding, like I mentioned before, you guys helped pass and approve bonds and funds to develop this park. In 2019, it was $100,000. In 2020, it was $250,000. So the current project funds are $350,000. I will mention that the project is on, or the park, not the project, excuse me, is on the 2022 bond for $200,000. And that will help make up some of the short-term priorities of the plan. Okay. Approval process, really, I'm looking in the future, I'll be coming back for a resolution of support from you guys, and then a public hearing at and resolution of support from the Parks and Recreation Commission this spring. I feel like I'm speeding through this, but thank you. I hope that everyone has a better understanding of the site plan and the goals and priorities outlined by the community during this process. I want to just yeah, say I'm available to chat. You guys should check out the project website, which I posted here, and I believe has been posted in the chat. The draft is there's a link to the draft that is available there. And yeah, I hope to see you guys next month.
Excellent. Thank
How'd I
you, Taylor.
do for time?
Yeah, you have about 40 seconds left. So we have time for one question or comment. And I see Olex raise their hand. Apologies for if I'm mispronouncing your name.
Nope, you got it right. Can you hear me? Yep. Okay. So my one question is just a clarification. I saw that the budget for the project was 327,000, or for the phase 1 development, and we have 350,000 set aside. So I'm just trying to clarify what the extra $200,000 would be doing, or what that would be used for. Thank you.
Sure. So we've already spent a large portion of those soft costs towards developing the site. We'll be doing construction admin, administration. We'll have to regrade, reseed, and maintain the that open sunny area. And really, these estimates, we've been finding that they are not accurate to what contractors are currently bidding. Every time we put a project out to bid, and I think this is echoed across the municipality and the state, things are just more and more expensive, and it's a surprise every time, which is really frustrating, but is the reality of the situation. So yeah, it doesn't include a large chunk of the other work that would happen, and the less significant work, I'll say, the less like heavy on the land. But I anticipate we will spend that 350 that we have now. And definitely tap into that project bond money for 2022 if the voters end up approving it.
All right. Thank you, Taylor, for being here tonight. And yeah, the info is posted in the chat by Matt. So if you guys want to follow up, and we'll hope to see you in upcoming months. All right, next on the agenda, we have the Kitchen Incubator Project, and I believe we have Kirk Rose from Anchorage Community Land Trust here to share. Kirk, are you here?
That's me. Can you hear me?
Yes, absolutely, and see you.
Okay, perfect. Well, it's lovely to be with you all. I'm Kirk Rose. I'm the CEO of Anchorage Community Land Trust. I'm not at 100% tonight, so you're not seeing me at my best. My voice might be a little bit growly, but at least I can be with you and be in my own basement and not in the same room. So, hey, technology. I'm a longtime part of the Mountain View Community Council and an executive officer with the Community Council for many years, so I have a deep appreciation for the work of community councils. It's nice to be with this group, but tonight I am representing Anchorage Community Land Trust. We're a nonprofit organization that is regularly working in the Spenard community, and ACLT works to bring out the best in Anchorage neighborhoods. We do a lot of really exciting work in your neighborhood, whether you know it or not, but we work with dynamic entrepreneurs and small business owners up and down Spenard Road, and there's a lot of small business might and entrepreneurial excellence in your community. And we work with to retain business owners on your commercial corridors, as well as to expand small business opportunities. So ACLT does that in neighborhoods in a very place-based way through 4 tools. We use real estate, community organizing, neighborhood improvements, and dynamic programming to what we say is build neighborhood economies and prosperity from within. And that within part is the most important, right? Let's work with our communities to do all of the wonderful things that they're capable of. One part of our programming is called Set Up Shop, and that's what I'm here to talk with you all a little bit about tonight. Set Up Shop is the way that we support neighborhood entrepreneurs and small business owners, and it's a pretty simple model described in 4 steps. So we train entrepreneurs, we provide access to capital through microlending, we provide business services or technical assistance, and we work with entrepreneurs and small businesses on real estate. So all of that happens in one navigable pipeline in our organization and with my incredible staff team. And in that way, we have now served hundreds of small businesses in our communities. We've trained hundreds of entrepreneurs. We've lent close to $250,000 in microloans in just this program's very short 4-year history. So we're really proud of the opportunities it's creating, the generational wealth that it's building, the employment that's happening. And again, this program is happening in your community. So one of the things that we have seen or learned from working with our very vast entrepreneur and small business environment and clients is that access to kitchen space is a huge issue for small businesses and entrepreneurs. And anyone who's been around food businesses or near that industry is probably nodding right now. There's all sorts of stories about just how darn hard it is to find a space to rent, to do your catering job, to make your value add product, to try to get your feet under you as you think about opening a restaurant space. It's one of the, I think, really big bottlenecks in the entrepreneurial environment in our city. And we experienced that first and forehand because 60% of the clients that we work with overall work in food-based businesses. So over and over and over and over and over and over again, these people walk into our door and they say, that's cool, you can help me with my logo, or that's cool, we can do a Facebook campaign, or like, hey, you can help me with my accounting, but if I can't make my product, you know, my business can't go, right? So what I'm here to talk to you about tonight is early stage proof of concept work that we're looking at, where we're exploring models from across the country related to this idea of a kitchen incubator. And it's not the easiest thing to describe, but I'll do my best. A kitchen incubator is a place with multiple rentable kitchen spaces and associated facilities for food processing, manufacturing, and cold and dry goods storage. And entrepreneurs and small business owners can rent this space by the hour so that they can do whatever they want to do within a kitchen. These type of facilities have really taken off across the rest of the country, and Anchorage is one of 10 states in the country that, or excuse me, Alaska is one of 10 states in the country that don't have a model like this. So we're looking at it in a pretty serious way just because demand is extremely high, and we've been analyzing it for a number of years, really, with a lot of really smart people, learning about the industry, learning about why these things succeed, learning about why they fail. And we've learned that it's a really, really tough business model. And we've kind of been scared straight, but we're still thinking pretty hard about it because this perennial question of access to kitchen space keeps coming up. So it's a big riddle, but we think it's an important part of economic development infrastructure within neighborhoods, within our city, within our state. So as we've circled around this idea, one of the important questions is like, where could this thing land? And we've been looking at different opportunities within the Spenard neighborhood. Because I think Spenard has some really amazing synergy and energy around food business. I think there's a lot of entrepreneurs working within the community and a lot of talent, and also just the larger burgeoning sort of economic opportunities within the neighborhood. So we've been looking at opportunities within the neighborhood. We haven't settled on anything. Honestly, my board has not even said like, let's run a kitchen incubator, Kirk, but I wanted to be here early tonight just to share with you all. And I know how important it is to be early with community council. So I wanted to take the time to be here tonight and just say, we're looking at this. Now I'm a nonprofit CEO, so part of my job is to try to get people excited and try to raise the money. So I have been having conversations around funding. Those are big and little, small and large. We've been talking with large philanthropic organizations and corporate sponsors like the Rasmussen Foundation and large banks and financial institutions that are really interested in this idea because of the pipeline of small business owners and entrepreneurs that could potentially be their clients or their emerging markets. So there is, I think, a lot of momentum in this idea, but to date, I have not really raised like a single dollar related to like a physical space. So we're still very much in this early stage, you know, what Taylor was describing, which is this sort of pre-development soft cost phase. But within that, you know, pre-development for us means due diligence, building analysis, looking at permitting and architecture, and continuing to build out this proof of concept in sort of a break even. So not hard construction. So I want to say that part of that has been early conversations with the Alaska legislature about a small award through the capital budget dedicated to pre-development work for our kitchen incubator. Those are early conversations I've been having with the representatives in your area. The capital budget is still very hypothetical this year, as you all know. It's a very interesting year down in Juneau with it being an election year. But we have put forward a very small ask within the capital budget related to pre-development of this concept. So I think I'll leave it there for now with Kitchen Incubator. I want to say a few more things and I'm happy to answer questions about this idea. But we have additional ongoing work for and opportunities for small business owners and entrepreneurs in your community. And we love referrals to our programming. So we have just recruited 17 new businesses for our Setup Shop cohort, which is our kind of core business model of training and technical assistance. We also have a module that we call Anchorage Online Bootcamp, which is really for existing business owners who are looking at how they can do their Facebook better, how they can get answer on Yelp, how they can make their website work with Square. That program has been really powerful and important throughout the pandemic, as you know, the economy has really shifted pretty immediately to almost all online. We also have an urban farm space in Mountain View called Grow North Farm, and we'd love it if you visited this summer. It's one of the, I think, coolest little oases within Anchorage. And two more things. We're launching a module within Setup Shop specifically for Alaska Native entrepreneurs. That's called Alaska's People Setup Shop. And we'll be beginning recruiting that in the next couple of weeks. And then because we like doing crazy things, we just bought a food truck actually, where we'll be trying to resolve some of the access to kitchen space questions that I described earlier, and working with entrepreneurs to cook out of a food truck, you know, a day a week or 2 days a week, and let them get their feet on their ground and incubate their business so that they can go onto their own food truck or their own space from there. So thank you for your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, thanks, Kirk. And I don't think we have time for questions. Sadly, we used up your time, but if you want to put your information in the chat to one of the hosts, we can share it out widely so folks can follow up with that information. And thanks for being here early and sharing that information. Next on our agenda, we have Daniel McKenna Foster, who's going to be sharing about a couple of different facets of zoning. Daniel, I think I saw you on here. You have 15 minutes total, including question time.
Cool. Thank you very much. Yeah, I'll pop on. I got double booked with universities, so, but I think the timing is right. You guys are running it so tight that I think it's going to work just right. So I will share my screen here quickly. Okay. So hi, everybody. My name is Daniel McKenna Foster. I'm a long-range planner with the municipality, and we've been working on updates to the R4A zone, which Spenard has the distinction of being one of the few places in the municipality that actually has this zoning district. So the zone has been on the books for a few years. It's not very popular. Nobody seems to use it. People seem to prefer the B3 zone, which is a little more versatile. So our task has been to make R4A more attractive, especially because it requires a component of housing instead of just commercial. So I'll kick that off. And then after that, I'll talk about the reinvestment focus areas, which is a little bit quicker and not as interesting, quite frankly. So, so the R4A project, we're not rezoning any property. We're not changing designation. We're changing what is allowed within the designation for existing zoning or future land zoned with this one. So, and there are currently only about 3 acres of land zoned R4A in the municipality. I think most of them are in Spenard. So just generally speaking, This, I'm sure everybody's familiar with it, but in thinking about how we design our cities, we can either build them so we have a lot of things far apart, or we have a lot of things close together, or a mix of the two. These are kind of the two extremes. When thinking about this, if you build things so they're far apart, expansion when growth goes outwards. If you build them close together, expansion goes upwards. You know, there's the famous saying, you can either build up or out. If you build outwards, you have higher transportation costs, infrastructure costs, higher energy costs. If you build closer together, you have lower transportation, infrastructure costs, and lower energy costs. This is all pretty straightforward, but it's just in thinking about the larger picture of why we need R4A in the municipality. It's because currently most of Anchorage looks like this. It does mean a lot of high transportation costs, high energy costs. I'm not saying, and nobody's saying we should build it all like this, but it's just a way of thinking about what is the purpose of allowing more of this flex, this density, and really it ultimately comes down to there's more efficiency when it gets to that. So this zone was conceived as kind of a way to facilitate this type of development. This is an example from Portland. This is another one. This is an example from Minneapolis. Here's one from Corvallis where I used to work. I'll stick with the Minneapolis one. So this type of development, I'm sure you've seen them everywhere. This is known as the 5-on-1 or the 6-over-1. It's basically the building code allows for you to build a concrete podium and then 4 or 5 stories of wood on top. So it's a pretty cost-effective way to get both housing, and usually there's some resident or some retail on the first floor. So the R4A zone is really about getting this sort of mixed use. I won't go through exactly what the comp plan says, but in general, the comp plan supports it. It comes out of the comp plan, remove barriers to desired infill, promote the development of Main Street, transit-oriented mixed-use corridors. Going back to the slide about building things far apart or together, if you want to have Main Street businesses, transit, you have to build things closer together. You have to get more of those people closer together. So all those things make economic sense. Again, here's the support within the 2040 land use plan. So these are the areas where you're eligible to rezone into it. Again, this project, we're not changing any land right now and saying this is now R4A. We're just saying if this becomes R4A, these are the things that are allowed. So within Spenard, this is a map of Spenard, and sorry, I cut off this area over here, but these are the areas where land is eligible for R4A, and this purple cut hash mark is what is currently zoned R4A. Looking more closely, this is kind of, let's see, here's Chugach Way, and this is 36th, and then Arctic is right here. So this on the left is the zoning that shows R4A. This over here, I think, is R2M, I believe, and this is R3. And this is the future land use plan, which shows that this is designated as urban residential high with some, I think you've got a green corridor overlay or open space corridor over that. So that's kind of the context and what we're working with. So the scope of proposed changes, updating and simplifying mixed use design standards, increasing the floor to area ratio, and I'll go over what that is a little bit later, basically allowing the amount of the site you can use. Oops, revising height allowances. So change the by right base building height to 60 feet and allow heights up to 90 feet if you do an administrative site plan review that you send out notice about. Simplifying frontage standards, reducing setbacks. We're getting rid of lot size minimums, mostly because this is intended for these bigger types of developments anyway. So the lot size minimum, there didn't seem to be a way to justify it. Provide increased allowances for commercial floor area. So commercial space can be up to 49% of a development, but it still has to be mostly residential. You can get larger percentages if you go through the small area implementation plan or conditional use or other processes that require a lot more input. And then add a few additional uses like a theater, a bar, veterinarians, commercial food production, cottage crafts, and light manufacturing, liquor store, farmers market, etc. Just to look at how that looks again, just going over some of the changes. Increase the floor area ratio from 3 to 4 with conditions. Facade transparency requirements. So if you build along a street that's designated as a pedestrian corridor, you have to have more windows and more kind of articulation. On any other streets, you have to have either an entrance, windows, an enhanced sidewalk, landscaping, or articulation, which is in this list. Again, no lot size minimums, height limit, 60 feet, generally 90 feet if you go through the admin site plan review with notice. No lot coverage requirements, and the maximum setback I think is the same, and no minimum setback except in the rear. And that's, again, landscaping rules generally create a setback anyway. Often if you're next to a road, you have to have 10 feet or 15 feet. It depends on the classification of the road. Here are the pedestrian corridors. So anything here in blue are the areas, or blue, and I think, yeah, these are any of these lines on the map. And again, this is in the AMETS 2020 plan. These are the places where you'd have to have that higher standard of pedestrian amenities. FAR, just a quick refresher. If you have a lot that's 100 by 100, if you can do 2 FAR, it means you can cover the whole lot twice. You can have that much total surface area. So that could be 2 stories covering the whole lot, or it could be something like this. And in most cases, because there's still a parking requirement or landscaping requirements, you're going to get something like this or something like this rather than full coverage of the lot all the way up. You know, there's going to be landscaping on the side. And so nobody ever really reaches the full 2 FAR in this way. They might reach it this way. And so we went from currently 3 is by right and 4 is the higher level with some conditions. Shadowing, a lot of people have been concerned about shadowing. There are existing protections in the code that says if you're next to a lower density zone or an area with a lower future land use designation, you have to kind of do step backs on the building. And when we look at the shadowing, it's really tough to do because it's, first of all, you decide, well, when are we supposed to be protecting from shadows? In the middle of December when it's dark anyway, in March 20th or September 20th. And so these are questions that as we look through it, trying to balance existing conditions, future conditions, existing residents, future residents. And fortunately, there are those protections already in place. So we settled with this, and this right here on the left is a 45-foot building, and this is a 60-foot. So the difference is actually not that great. It's not that different from what's already allowed in many zones, such as B3 or R4A as it is now. Okay, again, so here I mentioned this is where it's eligible in Spenard. We went over this. Sorry, I went through that very quickly. Does anybody have any questions or comments?
Yeah, I see firsthand from Jed, and then Bob or Peggy next.
Hey, thanks for this presentation. You mentioned that these changes would reduce some setbacks. Does that include stream setbacks?
No, so anything that's protecting a riparian corridor or a salmon stream, that I don't think we can touch at all. It's just the stuff that's in zoning that says you have to have 7 feet back or 10 feet back. Those are the only ones we're changing. And as I mentioned, we're not changing the landscaping standards, which apply to pretty much every development. So there's always probably going to be a setback. And with the stream stuff, a lot of that is based on building code or is based on kind of wetlands. And those we're never going to touch those. That's the kind of thing that any zoning code, I don't think, even if it said you can build wherever you want, if it comes to the state level, the state is going to say, no, you can't do that. So it wouldn't touch those.
All right, Peggy and then Lindsay.
Yes, hi, Daniel. I have a lot of questions. I probably have to talk to you offline, but I guess my question here is, you said it's only like 3 acres, and I'm trying to think of why the muni or the planning staff feels that, you know, going up another 15 feet or another 30 feet is what is going to make people decide to develop those properties. Or, I mean, I'm sorry, I couldn't tell from that map, you know, like what's on the property currently. I don't know if they're old buildings that would be torn down or, yeah, I mean, I can't tell from that what exactly is there now. As you know, like, I understand you're trying to be flexible. I guess I'm trying to figure out why they think that this 3 acres needs this special treatment. I just have a question about that.
Great question. To answer your first question, so the height increase, we've heard from Cook Inlet, actually, they said, they asked, can you raise the height limit in B3? Because that's where, when we hit 45 feet, sometimes we want to have taller floors and we want to get a little bit higher, and 45 feet was not enough. So 60 feet allows you to go up to maybe 5, probably not even 6, because there's usually 12-foot floors. So that was a request. We're not changing B3 right now, but CHI is one of the big housing developers in town. So that's where that piece came from. As for what's here right now, this is, I believe it's a mobile home park, and there's some old commercial buildings there. And again, it's kind of confusing because we're talking about one specific area that's zoned R4A, but the changes we're proposing would apply to all R4A anywhere. So that we've really been trying to avoid to do anything specific to this site and think more about, well, in other places where the plan identifies this zone is appropriate, such that there's some in Fairview and UMed. Most of it's actually in Midtown. Thinking about how can we improve that flexibility for everybody, but also kind of, meet the specific nature of each place. So it's just I think it's a matter of the zone hasn't been very popular as a tool. It's a tool that nobody's wanted to use. So our task has kind of been make this tool more usable. And then if we see more people zoning to it, rezoning to it, then we know that, okay, something here worked. But as it is, basically nobody has really rezoned to it. And the question is, well, can we fix it? Or I don't know, maybe we should get rid of it if nobody uses it. So that's another question. Thank you.
Well, if I could follow up, sorry, I'll try to be fast. I mean, at one time, the trailer park over here on Northwood, they wanted to put 680 units. And, right now it's zoned for trailer court. I'm not sure if it's R3 or what that would be, but the neighborhood was very upset about that. And I guess I'm thinking long-term, like, I'd hate to see where it's a big lot, it's 10 acres. And I'd hate to see it where suddenly there's a bunch of 90-foot buildings. That's considerable, that's considerable development on that property.
Well, in the 90 feet would go through the site plan review with notice, so that if people would be able to say, I really don't like this, and then I deal with the planning department would say, and that's really about, that comes down to the solar access and those other things, where if somebody said, oh, we want to build this huge tower, they would say, look, that is not really in line with the plan. It's not in line with the neighborhood plan. And so that protection is there. But the 60 feet would be by right. So yeah, that's noted, and I'll put my email in the chat as well for additional comments.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Lindsay.
Yeah, hey everybody. Thanks for the presentation. I think I just want to comment or ask about the transparency. So like the windows, I guess, that would be on the facade of the property. And part of the reason I bring it up is Chugach Way is one of the neighborhood's priorities that we want to redevelop. And in the non-motorized plan, it's designated as an enhanced shared roadway. So it will have a lot of pedestrian amenities. It's not one of the main pedestrian corridors because we have so few of them, like Arctic and 36th are. But Chugach Way is one of the roadways where I'd hate that a new development is just a wall facing that property. So I would just ask at like potentially including some of those other non-motorized designations within that 30% transparency, so that we're going to have something here in the future that the council can support. The council did support the rezone of this parcel, I think in like the end of 2020 for R4A, just so everybody knows or remembers, because we do want to see some redevelopment in this area and want it to just mesh well with the neighborhood, vision for the community.
Thanks, Liz. That's a great comment. I think that's really easy to add in, to say pedestrian corridors or any other corridor noted in a plan. That'd be really easy to add.
Great, thank you.
All right, and as long as it's quick-ish, Olex, we have time for your comment or question.
Yeah, it's pretty quick. I was actually just going to ask, so I know you mentioned how you're looking at this as a general zoning requirement, but I'm wondering if you specifically talked to the developer that owns those 3 acres there off Chugach Way and seen what his plans and ideas for the future, and if you've reflected that in your updates to the zoning.
Yeah, so we've talked with Mr. Brooks a number of times, and we tried to talk with as many people as we could. So we've also talked to other developers, both public and private, just so we don't get stuck, on one person. And if you'd like, if you go back to and I can share these materials at the Planning and Zoning Commission when we presented this last week, you can see materials from the developer where he makes specific comments. Some of which we just said, look, that doesn't align with the plan. We can't put that in there. So that might answer the question better than I have. But we have been in touch, and really we've tried to be in touch with anybody, say who will build housing, who will use this to make sure that we get half the housing, half of a mixed-use development. So we haven't been in touch, but we're always looking for more people or more potential partners or more feedback. So I'll make sure to send my email around again, and maybe with that link to the previous materials.
Thank you, Daniel. Yeah, if you want to share it with one of the the hosts, we can get that out there. Thank you so much for being here tonight and sharing all this good info. All right, up next, we have our noise control resolution, and we have our own Peggy Auth sharing on that. And I think I am going to share my screen, but I did put it in the chat box. So if folks want to access it on their own, that's a direct link to the site. So Peggy, you have up to 10 minutes, but that includes questions or comments.
All right, thank you, Meg. This resolution actually came out of North Star Community Council. They had asked the Anchorage Ombudsman for some clarification about what the police and the Muni can do about excessive noise. Usually it's problems in the summertime, but it's anybody who lives next to. They have C Street, and they go down towards the lagoon. So a lot of people like to go on their rice rockets in the summertime, up and down doing like a loop. And it's very, as anybody's been around them, they're very loud, and it can go quite late into the night, considering that we get so much sunlight, so people can be out. And the ombudsman, Daryl Hess, found that really there was no enforcement going on. There were too many holes in how they can measure noise, and there's just a general lack of enforcement. And he made a recommendation that there be clarification between the police department, the Muni, and the community. So all the community, not just North Star, that they can have some enforcement. So when people are calling up the police, 11 o'clock at night about street racing, the police can do something about it. So they drafted this resolution, which was passed unanimously. And because it's a community-wide problem, it doesn't stop at the border between North Star and Spenard. And we get our fair share here because of Spenard Road and Minnesota and International. And people love doing the loop in the summertime, just doing that loop. So we thought that it was appropriate that the Spenard Community Council also ask to pass this resolution in support of North Star and the communities all across Anchorage to clarify all these so that there can be some enforcement, so that people can sit out in their yards and enjoy summer with their friends when they're having barbecues and stuff without obnoxious noise levels. And, it just would be a good thing to bolster this for the entire community. So, I'm asking the community council for the executive committee to pass this and show a resolute feeling about this, that we will go ahead and ask this of the community, the police and the Muni to start doing something about this problem. And so I can take any questions that people have.
Great. I saw Olex and Tawny. Or maybe Olex, your hand might be raised from the previous thing. So Tawny.
Sure, yeah. I don't have a question, but I would like to say that I definitely support this. I don't know about anybody else, but I worked from home for the last 2 years. And I think what was shocking, I always knew there was noise, especially because, you're home late, you're gardening, but it's just nonstop. It was 2 years of nonstop loud noise. And to be fair, I live over off Arkansas and Spenard, which is a street away from the Harley Davidson shop. And I have very sensitive hearing, and it just was so obnoxious. It's just all the time. And it's not just cars, it is the motorcycles, are the muffler modifications, the motorcycles, it's all it's just a lot. And I think it is not, I agree, it's completely unenforced. It's been concern and a complaint for me personally for a long time. And I get that they have other things like murders and this and that, but there are some issues that make it, I mean, I just, after 2 years, I was like, I think maybe it's time to move out of Spenard. Like, you can't get any peace and quiet because we also have the unique, you know, along with Turnagain, we're by Lake Hood. So it was float planes, motorcycles, cars, and I fully support this resolution. And if any of our assembly people or anybody else is on board, like, I think there are things that are not currently enforced by police, including unsecured truck beds and trash and things like that, that make life in Anchorage more gross and unpleasant. And I would love to see those things go back into the APD's purview and actually do their job regarding that.
Thank you, Tani. All right, so the voting form is in the chat. Sarah put that in there. If there's any difficulties accessing that, feel free to reach out to one of the hosts. We're now going to transition into our next section. We have Mr. Milton Stevens here to present about a proposed rezone of his property. Mr. Stevens, you have 5 minutes total, including questions or comments. Are you here with us, sir? All right, I am not here. I thought I saw him on earlier, but maybe he's having some tech difficulties. So we're going to transition now into our community announcements section. Anyone is welcome to use the raise hand feature or put in the chat if you're not comfortable with an announcement that you'd like to share with the community, stuff that's going on. We ask that these stay to about 2 minutes max to be mindful of everyone's time. And I see Eric has their hand raised. And Eric, could you please share your first and last name for our minutes, please?
Sorry, I'm just, my name's Eric Phillips, and I'm just kind of speaking up for Milt Stevens. You know, I'm kind of involved with also what he's proposing. I own the adjoining property, and the property that would be in between his lot and the other properties I own. One of them is residential, and then it meets up to Milton Stevens' residential property. What he's proposing is to change it back to an I-1 property because he wants to build a shop so he can build the boats or whatever he does. He's a retired veteran. He worked for me in the past. He's like a super handy guy, and he's just looking for a retirement spot. It's kind of like the I-1 kind of starts right at where Milton's house is, and across the street is the SBS, and right across from his lot that he wants to change back to I-1, and the first part of my parcels is the gate to the SBS. So it's really like kind of a real defined line where it goes from residential over to I-1. I understand there's a shortage overall of residential property. Being a builder in the past, I've struggled with this too, to find residential properties. But in this case, and the properties that I own, I don't think anybody would ever want to build residential in this spot. Spenard's it's a mixed community, but we count on also these, for me, the I-1 properties for my business, and we support jobs in the community. For Milton, he wants to build a shop that he's like I said, he's a disabled vet, and he just wants a shop that he can hang out in and retire and be happy for the rest of his years. So I totally support it, and I guess my understanding is like my lot would also have to change to an I-1. He's done all the paperwork on this. I have not been involved. I've supported it.
Right.
But,
thank you, Eric. We're right about at 2 minutes. Thank you for being here and,
okay.
and sharing. I just want to be mindful of folks' time.
Okay.
I do think I saw Milton. Milton, were you able to access? Can you see and hear us? Can we hear you? Yeah. Can you try one more time, sir? Shoot. Okay. I'm not hearing you. Yeah, I know. Like I said, I'm super sympathetic to Zoom tech issues because I face them a lot. But I'll move on to the next community announcement, and you can raise your hand if you feel like you are able to speak. Let's see. Oops. I saw Tawny's hands, Tawny, and then Irma.
Yes, okay. I wanted to let you folks know that, let me pull it up. Thursday, March 10th from 6 to 8 p.m. So that's next Thursday. We are going to have our West Anchorage Candidates Forums, and I will be the moderator. We're really excited. Our awesome planning committee with multiple West Anchorage Community Council members are hard at work, and we are in the final stages of the question forming or finalizing the questions. So it's going to be a great event and really important to hear about what candidates have to say in preparation for this election. And I hope everyone can make it. And hopefully someone can put the link to the Facebook account or the Facebook event in the chat for folks. And then separately, as the chair of the Spenard Beautification Committee, I know that it's still winter, snow on the ground, but the Anchorage Chamber of Commerce announced the citywide cleanup week. It's actually a month this year, but it's going to be coming up in a couple months, and I'll let people know that we're going to do some more fun cleanup events around Spenard. So keep your eye out, come to these meetings, because that's where we'll coordinate for volunteers. And also, as we get closer to the event, kind of coordinate for where we want to clean up, and just keep your eye out on areas that might need more help than others. Thank you.
Thank you, Tawny. All right. Up next, we have Irma. Irma, are you able to connect with your audio?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, now we can.
Okay. Yeah,
and a
unfortunately,
reminder
my
to
dog
we
started.
ask for updates to be about 2 minutes max. Thank you so much for being here. Glad you got your audio sorted.
Sure. Okay. I live near Aquarian Charter School, and we've lived here probably more than 20 years. The school there has become unruly. The parents themselves, not the children. And what I mean unruly, they are so disrespectful to the neighborhood, in particular my street, because my street goes directly straight into the school. They bypass Minnesota because there's been several accidents there. During the winter, it's horrible. Right now, it's congested. They will park in between my driveway. They will my house is the biggest house, the biggest driveway. They will make U-turns. They will throw trash on the street. And I've gone to the principal. She's made an effort, sent out the transportation team. Unfortunately, when they came, there was some holiday, so they didn't really observe the activity that I've been experiencing. I've been cordial as to please respect my neighborhood. We have a area where everybody gets their mail, and they will park in front of it, and I can't get to my mailbox. There's elderly people that have lived here for many years, and they're zooming by, total, like I said, disrespectful. The principal has tried to have the parents come at different times, and that creates some kind of, they cool down a little bit, and then it starts all over again. And just recently, 2 days ago, I asked the people that were in the driveway and they will park like on top of the snowbanks. The street is very narrow. It's very small. And I asked if they could move because I couldn't get to my driveway to make a turn because I have a big SUV. She told me to move out of the way, was arguing with me. I said I didn't want to argue, honking at me. All these people do not live in this neighborhood. And
I'm
that's
sorry to
what
hear that
they're-
you're having that
Yeah.
experience. I don't mean to
Yeah,
interrupt
and
you,
I just-
but yeah.
Yeah, I'm just trying to find out a better way if somebody can think of how to help me with this resolution because it's ongoing. And I'm not the police that I'm going to police my street. They should respect my street. And I'm asking fellow neighbors to help me with that resolution. Thank you.
Right. Thank you for being here and joining us for our meeting. Miss Margot Bellamy is no longer on the call, but she's been really responsive to questions or concerns. So I would encourage you to reach out to her. But again, thank you for being here. All right. I don't see any other community announcements. So we are going to transition now to do the treasurer's report. Well, actually an update from our treasurer why there is not a report for this month. Julie, are you still on the line?
I'm not here. Unfortunately, I don't have a report for everyone this month. We are in the process of transitioning from the former board into the new board. And so until we clean out and do the audit for next year, or from the previous board members, I won't have an audit for you. So we will have something together. We're going to clean everything up and do a transfer of all powers next week. And I will have an audit report, treasurer's report for you next month. And we will also start back with the gift cards.
Thank you so much, Julie, for the update.
And if everybody could on their own support our local Spenard businesses, that would be awesome.
Wonderful. All right. And I see Mr. Stevens might be trying to call in. Mr. Stevens, can you hear us? There might be another phone number that's joining. All right. Well, moving on to kind of the ending part of our meeting. Sarah got back to us about the resolution, and it passes 15-1. So thank you guys for voting, and I will learn what I'm supposed to do. I think I sign it and send it to someone, and I'll figure that out. So thank you guys for giving me that learning experience. Hey, we got back on track with time. I'll stick around in case there's any other questions or comments, but otherwise hope. Oh, I need to entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting. I almost forgot. Do we have a motion to adjourn our meeting tonight?
Move to adjourn. This is Peggy.
Peggy, thank you. Do we have a second to adjourn our meeting tonight?
I'll second.
Awesome. I think that was Lindsay. Thank you, or sorry, Julie. Thank you for helping me out. All right. Thanks,
I'll
guys.
second that one. Irene will second.
Awesome. Thanks, Irene. And
next meeting is April 5th, right? Just want to make sure that's announced.
Yes, thank you. So next meeting, I think, is Wednesday, April 6th. And if you guys want to add stuff to the next agenda or to be considered for the next agenda, email spenardcc@gmail.com. The exec board meets the second Tuesday of the month to review that and come up with our agenda. Thank you guys for being here tonight. Hope everyone has a lovely rest of their evening and a happy March.
Thank you, Meg.
Thank you.
Good job.
Excellent work.